Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome to our video. So in this video, we are going to explain about the material about the gender roles. So let's start. But first of all, let me introduce my name. My name is Ilmi Alpanavia with ID number 19320039. And then my friend, I'm Anas Khairuddin, I'm Abdullah, Ahmad Krishna, and then I'm Avatar. So let's start the first one, gender roles in workplace context. Gender roles in America, especially in the workplace context, women's roles generally occupy the same rank as men's. America, which has a history of high individualism, makes the assumption that men and women are equal in the work environment. This is also evident from some of the policies used by most companies in America. Policies covering learning and supervisory practices, salary schedules, and day-to-day work behavior must be free from the differences between men and women. They behave and are treated the same in general. Men and women in the workplace are expected to treat each other as human individuals with personality and work-related qualifications that have nothing to do with their gender. Apart from its history of high individualism, this is also motivated by the rise of sexual harassment cases that occur in the workplace in America. So to minimize the occurrence of something that is not desirable of both parties, many companies that take the policies. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, gender roles in the workplace context are still closely related to the hierarchical system adopted by most regions in Asia. Several studies have been conducted, and it was found that ASEAN organizations are hierarchical structured. Society assigns superior position to men members and secondary position to women members. Asian society considers men to be more assertive and authoritative, while women are expected to obey and be docile. Indonesian culture is not much different from other Asian countries. For example, in Japan, companies still prioritize male applicants over female applicants. This happened because of an incident where at the time the deteriorating economy in Japan made most of the female employees leave. This made many companies in Japan even more selective in sorting job applicants, especially by gender. Most people in Indonesia still place a greater sense of trust in men in the work environment. Even though in Indonesia nowadays women are equal to men in any context, but not least in practice, women are still below men in the context of the work environment. So that is about the gender roles in workplace context. Next continue to the next material. Thank you.
Now the next material is about the gender roles in politics of United States of America. In the United States, women have made significant strides towards closing the gaps that have kept them from achieving equality with men. But the country is sharply divided over how much work remains to be done, and those divisions are rooted mainly in the growing partisan schism that pervades American values and culture this day. A new Pew Research Center survey finds that Democrats are largely dissatisfied with the nation's progress on this issue. 69% say the country has not gone far enough when it comes to giving women equal right with a man. Meanwhile, among Republicans, more than half, 54%, say things are about right, while only 26% say the country has more work to do. The politics also underpins view about who has a benefit from the changed role of the men and women. Among Democrats and Republicans, more see an upside for a woman than for a man, as women have taken on a greater role in the workplace and men have assumed more responsibility for child care and housework. But Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to see a benefit flowing from this societal shift. Move the next material about the gender roles in the politics of Indonesia. In Indonesia, the constraint of the socialization between women and men in the political roles start from the family. For instance, whether there is a value representing that the roles in a political field tend to be more suitable or proper for men rather than women. The patriarchy ideology still colors the people living in Indonesia from the family. Then it develops into a political parties wherein a masculine model in the political arena. In the political arena, men are still very dominant in making political rules and mostly in defining the standard of evaluation. So, for the summary, there are three political characteristics of gender roles in Indonesia. Number one is political life is often arranged in line with norms and values of men and a particular case, even with the lifestyle of men. For example, the political model based on the idea of the loser and a winner. Competition and confrontation instead of respect one another, collaboration and consensus. This environment is often in the contradiction with a woman, refusing the politics as a whole or even the political style of men. Second is difference between men and women also arise in the content and priority in making decisions determined based on interests, backgrounds and work patterns of the two sexes. Women tend to give a priority to societal problems such as social assurance, health service, and issues on children and women. Third is the men dominate work patterns are then reflected in the work schedule of parliament members, which are often characterized by a weak structure to support working mother in general, and especially women parliament members. Women show flexibility and hard work besides doing activity in their party and constituent. They should also help various committees work network with women in their party and the multi-party level, and also with women out of the parliament. Dealing with the constraint where women still show minor mental state, the mental state giving more emphasis on activity in the domestic sector also make their position difficult.
Okay, my name is Muhammad Abdullah. Now I will explain about gender roles on parenting in USA. One of the biggest difference in family roles you may have to adapt in the United States is gender roles. In the United States, women often work outside of the house. Women and men are share household chores and take care of children. Sometimes men feel frustrated because they are not used to cleaning the house or cooking dinner, but helping out in the house and with the children is seen as an important part of being a man. Many Americans send their children to daycare center. This means they are watched by someone outside of the home. For some refugees, this is very strange situation. You may always had your children at home, or maybe you had grandparents to help take care of them. In the United States, many neighbors help each other sell child care. Parents can choose to be more relaxed, in keeping with the Scandinavian model, or more controlling, the US model. Okay, next I will explain about gender roles on parenting in Indonesia. In Indonesia, currently there is father involvement in caring for and taking care of children in the family. In families in some areas, children are accustomed to being independent and not too close to their playmates, so that father helping in education children, such as limiting and punishing children so that children obey their parents. In reality, on the ground, apart from educating children, fathers are also involved in paying attention to children, guiding children, communicating with children, as well as participating in giving gifts and helping celebrate children's special days. When giving arrangement to the children, there is a value of respect that is reflected in the role of the husband providing the application of etiquette to children in speaking softly to the elders, and the role of the wife advising when meeting with older people to bow their heads, reflected in value of independence. In the role of the husband and wife when providing the application of habits or example in terms of homework. The value of nrimos or surrender is reflected in the role of the husband and wife in advising to children to surrender when the desired things happen, and not to never give up.
Okay, here I wanna continue the explanation about gender roles, which is here I will explain the gender roles on education in USA. Here, after I read some research, some paper that doing research or study in US, I found some points that indicated the conditions of education in US recently years. The first, in America, women tend to finish their education sooner than men who are a few years behind. This is because based on the possibility of schools adopting a feminine system that makes teachers tend to prefer women in the classroom setting. Based on Greenfield 1998 and Cornell in 2000. Furthermore, researchers, teachers are less able to understand the characteristic of boys, which is it makes them often disciplined than they do in girls. Based on Kellogg and Medley in 2000, Junior and Huston in 2001, and Lopez in 2003. And then here, in another research shows that there is a gender gap in some lessons such as mathematics, engineering, science, and technology. Here, the difference or the disparities appears when the subject begin to enter the advanced level, for example, in senior high school, university, or in the choosing work field, where in this case they are rarely female students who focus on majoring in mathematics, for example, in mathematics. Why? Because this is further exemplified by research from Turner and Bowen in 1999, which reports that if a male student got high score on a math test, then he will highly recommended to focus on mathematics, basic science, and engineering. Whereas if a woman get the test result as well as the male student before got, then she will be recommended to a different subject such as biology or non-quantitative social science. And then the last point, the lack of support, both mentally and economically, especially for women or female students who are pregnant or a young mother. Here, mentally, the faculty or university only gives very little time to students can join the part-time class. Often, female students have to return to full-time learning as soon as the birthing process is over, although they tend to experience mental stress from having given birth. Then in economy, even though they study part-time, some female students do not get a discount at all. Plus, they only get very little financial assistance and health insurance. From those points, and then from all those points, we can conclude that if a woman have good performance in education, but the school system tend to border them, it means we can take the conclusion, or we can see that in US itself indicates that gap or indirect discriminate, especially for women through education. So that's all from me, and then the gender roles on education in Indonesia will be explained by my friend in the next section.
So I will continue the explanation about the gender roles on education. So here is gender roles on education in Indonesia. Indonesia has made considerable progress toward gender equality over the past decade, with improved rates of literacy, school enrollment, and employment, as well as policies to pave the way for a more gender equitable society. In the 1970s, the Gender Parity Index for school enrollment rates, the ratio of girls to boys enrolled, for children 7 to 12 years old was 0.89, signaling a significant disparity in favor of boys. The gap was even wider in older children. However, by 2019, Indonesia achieved gender parity in education participation at the national level with a GPI of 1.00 for school enrollment rates of children 7 to 12 years old. A recent World Bank study supported by the Australian government examined gender issues in education and found that while national averages have improved, significant difference exists at the subnational level, both in favor of boys and girls. So, for school participation, both boys and girls face disadvantages in different regions. For example, in Sukamara Regency, Central Kalimantan, 61% of boys aged 16 to 18 are enrolled in school, while the percentage of girls enrolled in 95%. However, in other regions, girls also face disadvantages. For example, in Probolinggo Regency, East Java, the percentage of boys enrolled is about 1.5 times more than the percentage of girls enrolled. It shows that in some regions, most of the students are female, but in other regions, most of the students are male. Bullying impacts for male and female. So the study confirmed findings from earlier studies on bullying in schools. While boys have a higher risk of bullying or physical violence, but girls, by comparison, were more likely to experience sexual-based violence and emotional or psychological violence. So within the education workforce, men occupying the majority of management positions across MORA, or in Indonesia we call Kemenak, and MOEC, Kemendikbud schools. Women represent over half the teaching workforce at the primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary school levels. However, when it comes to managing and leading schools, data shows that men dominate these roles. At the primary level, women represent 31% of principal in MORA and 43% in MOEC schools, with the figure falling as the school level increases. In upper secondary, MORA schools, only 19% of school principal positions are occupied by women, whereas in MOEC upper secondary schools, only 22% of all principals are women. So I think that's all the explanation about gender roles from our group. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.